Joining me on the podcast and on video, it's John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at SP Angel. Howdy, partner.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Uh, Sorry, my wife was just ringing in, and I apologize. The dog barks, and she got a dog next to me, and she doesn't want to leave the room. So there we are. I think she likes the chat about resource stocks and stuff. Okay, let's start on macro, John. Before we get into some individual companies, let's look at macro. And said, if you just look at the prices of a couple of commodities here, and most notably maybe gold and silver. We can see, gold and copper. That's copper futures. They've come back a bit, haven't they? Look at that. They're now down from what? High, pretty much 18% up from the closing high on the 17th of May, 2024. Now, you just said this is about China, isn't it? Again, but you did say before we came on, there's a little bit of a worry now that America's slowing down. Two biggest economies in the world. That's not good.
Yeah, it's been quite an extraordinary week, and I can't decide whether it's just because it's middle of summer and in midsummer it's a time when markets are weak. A lot of big players are on holiday, and if somebody's going to have a go at bashing down markets, this is the time to do it, or a time to do it. Yeah, copper prices have gone from over $10,000 a ton all the way back down to nine. In fact, they bounced yesterday from just under $9,000 a ton to 9,073 this morning. So that looks a bit more positive. Gold prices still coming back from a high that we saw just over a week ago.
Yes, let's
I'm
find out. There are different plays on there, I suppose. Gold has had a good rally, and it's in this range. It seems back in this range. Look at this range here, from where's it going? Oh, there we go. I don't know what's happened to my thing here. But you see there, it's almost back in that range where it could try to break out between, where is it? Pretty much 2440 or 2400 and 2300. So it's in that range, isn't it? So yeah, but different plays, aren't there? I mean, gold is more about reassurance and when people worry they go gold, but copper is about the economic growth of the world. So that's a little bit worrying, isn't it?
Well, I think the Chinese look at copper in the way that we look at gold. They see it as a sort of valuable asset to hold, and it's an asset that always has value of some sort. Now, if you get a financial crisis, we go back to when Lehman Brothers went bust, and that was the capitulation of the global financial crisis, and suddenly all the politicians and governments got together and worked out how to fix the problem. Um, at that moment when everything collapsed, gold collapsed as well. But the reason why you own gold is because gold is the first thing pretty much to recover. And
Yeah.
gold is I mean I'm not going to compare gold with cryptocurrencies, but gold is a physical asset that everybody always seems to think has great value. And okay, if somebody gets caught short, they've got to liquidate whatever they can liquidate, and sometimes then there's some gold liquidation in that, but it always recovers very, very quickly after that capitulation. So, sure, if you get stopped out, gold will also, you won't get your full value for gold, but if you're able to hold on to that gold for a bit longer, the price will recover quickly, and that's why it's seen as such a good store of value. And if we look at the gold miners, for example, their margins are very strong at this point in time. I know every business in the world has suffered a degree of inflation, but the gold price has moved beyond that, and their margins have expanded significantly.
Look at that. The gold didn't really collapse during the Great Financial Crisis. It rolled over a little bit in 2008, but look at this. That's in 2007. It went from $640, um, and it rose to 2008. It peaked at 1,000
Oh yeah,
bucks in
yeah, and
2009,
then you had
and then
you
it
had
came
you
down
had
to
a
like
quick pullback.
yeah, quick pullback. But that was when the markets were recovering. It was like 2009 was when March was the bottom. Gold then did recover as well, but it didn't really. That's the place to be, John, isn't it? In worrying times, gold, cash and gold. That's what we want, and we're up here now. But yeah, that's the copper really did collapse, but gold. But I suppose gold is having a pullback, isn't it? That's what it's doing. It's not it's not. What's going on my gold? It's just having a bit of a pullback, I think.
Well, it's still a lot higher than it was,
Yeah.
and we know that there are plenty of Chinese people buying gold. We know that we're coming up towards the Indian harvest, and when they get cash in, quite often they go out and buy some gold as well. And the impact of lots of farmers going out and buying bits of gold is actually quite significant in the market.
Yeah. What's happening to my charts there? Okay, so and you were saying that China, they've increased, haven't they? The age of retirement.
Well, yeah, well, they're looking at it. So at the moment, the retirement age in China is 60 for men. It is 50
107 for ladies.
for women, for female blue collar workers, and it is 55 for female white collar workers. So I don't think they're overjoyed. In fact, I think they're pretty upset that their retirement age is about to be increased, because a lot of them work for state-run companies, and they feel that the state owes them a decent retirement. And remember, a lot of these guys have moved from the rural environment into cities, the urban environment, at a time when there was a great deal of pollution, when before they had electric vehicles, uh, when you couldn't see the sky. I mean, somebody asked a pilot one day who was flying into Beijing if what Beijing looked like from the air, and he said he didn't know, he'd never been able to see it.
Wow.
So
Mm.
it's they've got a big job ahead of them, ensuring that the pollution is swept away. Of course, if you've been breathing in massive amounts of pollution for the last 50 years, um, you might not feel that healthy by the time you get to the age of 60.
Yeah, and the fact that they've increased the retirement age to 104, it's not going to help.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never get there. It's like they can't afford to pay out pensions. No, exactly. By 60, I suppose, yeah, so, especially in China as well, where there's still a big smoking population, isn't there? So they're smoking cigarettes, and I mean, I don't know if it's changing now amongst the younger generation, but they sell a lot of cigarettes there. And it seems the elderly still smoke a lot of cigarettes. So you get that combined with pollution, and yeah, you get the age of 60. You're lucky if you've got many years left in you, So I put that in retirement age, but it just shows, isn't it? China's finances are struggling a bit. Okay, so let's look at individual companies. John, who's come up with news this week?
Well, as you know, we're at the higher risk end of the spectrum when it comes to mining. We like to support a lot of exploration companies. We feel that's where certain gains are to be made. In fact, there's simply not enough money going into exploration for mining, for commodities, and for the development of new mines. And there are regions of the world that are absolutely ripe for it. For example, Kavango Resources. They had an announcement earlier this week where they were validating their exploration model in Botswana. So they found the presence of copper and silver mineralizing systems, and that in itself isn't a discovery. But let's put it this way: I think they are really on the right track towards some form of discovery going on there, and I think that's well. I bought shares in Kavango a little while ago, and that's why I'm still holding them, because I think there is a reasonable chance that they'll do something more exciting. They've also got a gold recycling program in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is improving as a destination to do business, and this will provide a bit of cash. It's always important to have a little bit of incoming cash on a business. You shouldn't just be looking to raise money from investors on an annual or semi-annual basis.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Well, in fact, for an exploration company, they're very well funded. Not sure quite how much they've got in the tin, but I think the last fundraising was $6 million. May have been £6 million, but no, I think from an exploration perspective, they look like they're in a good place.
Yeah. So what do they get here? There's a couple of holes here. Depth and okay.
Yeah, so they've local values of 1.8% copper, and there are showings of parts per million of lead and zinc and silver, and these are the things that get the geologists quite excited. They're often talking about minerals that indicate the presence of more minerals. But for me, I mean a value of 1.8% copper is a very nice thing to find. And that's the sort of thing that we're very keen to see how that's followed up. And Botswana's not the easiest place for exploration because there's an awful lot of sand cover in the Kalahari. But the government's very friendly. You can get if you make a discovery, you can get a mine up and running very, very quickly. I wonder if it could be the fastest place in the world to get things up and running. But it certainly wouldn't be far off being the fastest in the world.
Yeah, maybe that should be their tagline. We are the fastest place in the world to get things up and running.
I will add that actually you do have to do all the sort of world standard environmental studies and all that kind of thing. And Kavango is a properly run business, so we'll be sure that they'll be doing all that.
Yeah. Well, there we are. It's a good little rally as well, though. We looked at this before. I put this line in before this break here, but this 0.9. It seemed you can see previous support there. It came down under it, now resistance, broke that resistance. Up we go, and so a nice little rally. Come back on the support level now, 1.2. And so maybe retest that maybe and move higher. Hopefully, never. Okay. What's next, John?
Well, again, there was news earlier on in the week from Cornish Metals. They sold a couple of tungsten properties that they had in Canada. That's good. Their royalty interests in tungsten projects, and they sold those for $4.5 million. So it's nice to have cash coming in. There's a cash payment of $3 million on the closing of the transaction, and then another $1.5 million 12 months after that. So again, always good to see some cash coming in without recourse to shareholders.
Yeah. Sale of Mactung and Kantung royalties. What language is that? That sounds like almost like Chinese.
So look, I should add, we act as nomad and broker to Cornish Metals. I'm a shareholder, and I love the company. Firstly, I worked in the South Crofty mine when I was a student studying mining engineering. But also, it's very hard to find tin mines in the world these days, and Cornwall is pretty much the place to go. I mean, there are tin mines in Myanmar. There used to be a certain amount of stuff in Malaysia and Indonesia, but so much of that has been mined out. There's a little bit down in Tasmania. There's not so much going on there now. You just don't see new discoveries for tin mines. Well, maybe you see something once every 20 years. The world uses more and more tin because every time somebody solders a connection in an electric vehicle, they use a bit of tin solder. So, I mean, you could use silver, but silver is much more expensive. You could even use gold or platinum. Again, they're better metals, but they are so much more expensive. So tin is the go-to metal for soldering anything in the electronics business. And yes, they are better at using smaller amounts of tin in every connection, but there are so many more electronic components made these days that actually demand continues to rise. So yeah, for us, the reopening of Cornish Metals, it's not just something that we want to see happen. It's something the world needs to see happen.
Yeah. Well, as a kid, I think I had some tin soldiers. Right. Anyway,
we used to make them. We used to make figures out of tin, and sometimes we might mix in a bit of lead as well because it was cheaper and readily available. But no, it's a very useful metal.
Yeah. Okay. I'm watching a guy come in my drive here because last time he came in, he banged our new gate, which is annoying. And it's the same guy, but he's managed to do it this time. Okay, so the doorbell's going to be ringing now in a bit, I think. So, John, what's next?
So we had news earlier in the week from Mkango Resources. They were updating the market on their hypermag facility at Tilsley. They are expecting to launch commercial operations in the first quarter next year. So that's
explain what a hypermag facility is, John, if you could.
Well, this is where they break down things like disk drives and other electrical components, or components that contain rare earth oxides. So
Okay.
what they're doing is using that facility. It's a pressure vessel to extract those rare earths from the bits of machinery that's been chucked in there. So look, it's good. I mean, recycling is a very important part of the supply chain these days. There's an enormous amount of material that can be recycled. I mean, if you look at the lead industry, I mean, almost all the world's lead acid batteries are recycled these days. And this will happen with rare earths going forward as well. So many motors have got, from small motors to very large motors on wind turbines. A motor and a generator are much of the same thing, really. And most of these things contain rare earths because what you want is permanent magnets in those motors because they work more efficiently. They just work better. And in fact, especially for the wind turbines, you want to have dysprosium and terbium in there as well. It's not just the neodymium and the praseodymium give you the permanent magnet properties, and then the dysprosium and the terbium help you. What they ensure is that you don't lose that permanent magnet property when the generator gets too hot. So that's why you tend to find those four rare earths within electric vehicle motors and within wind turbine motors.
Yeah. And do you know, so this, hang on, we're going here. This is Cornish Metals, gone the wrong way. So they're starting in, when you say September, is that right? Do you know how much they're
They're
going
starting in the first quarter next year. So that they've been running trials,
Yeah.
and they're going into commercial operations Q1 next year. So, but this is all about making sure you get enough permanent magnet material to feed the pressure vessels. They're going to have a new hypermag vessel delivered on site in September, and then they'll put all the infrastructure around that. The facility is going to do about 25 to 30 tons of recycled neodymium and iron boron, because you get a lot of that out of these sorts of motors. And that's 20% of the capacity for the first few months. We'll see how that goes, but I think
Any idea how
it'll
much
work well.
how much revenue this will generate?
I haven't got that number in front of me.
Okay. So Mkango, they started this a while back. Do they still have exploration going on or not?
They have a project in Malawi, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
because the rare earth prices have pulled back to a degree, they've put that on hold. I mean, what I really like about starting off with this facility is the team will get good at the valuable processing side of the rare earth. So, for example, if they develop the mine, the Songwe Hill mine in Malawi, they would be sending rare earth concentrates to China, and they wouldn't get a very good price for those concentrates. Now, if they can develop their own processing facilities in the UK, then they'll be able to get, if they develop that far, sufficiently, one day, I hope they'll be able to develop the mine in Malawi and then export the product into the UK where they will be able to process it and get the full value for it. Now, they're not the only company doing this, but they are quite far ahead in terms of their processing ability. And I think that's what's really important here. There are a number of teams using different types of process, hydrometallurgical processes and other things. And I think all these processes are valid, but what's important is having the expertise and knowing how to run such a plant. I will add that we act as no man and broker to Mkango.
Yeah. And why are people not enthused by this, are they? At the moment, the share price keeps going down.
Well, look, the difficulty's been in raising finance for these sorts of companies in recent years. You could also say, well, this has followed the fall of rare earth pricing to some degree as well. But look, at some point, when these guys show that they can actually go into commercial production, they have a functioning recycling facility, then I think new investors will come in, and I think this thing will turn around.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Marvelous. Good stuff. Anything else, John? Anything else we're looking at? You mentioned sovereign metals, didn't you?
Yeah, Sovereign. Yesterday they put out a statement showing that they're trial mining again in Malawi for rutile and graphite. So it's a rutile graphite mine. It's a very large project actually, but the trial mining has been going on. They showed some photographs of the trial mining pit. The guys at Rio Tinto who are behind it, I'm told, say that that's all worked very well. So everybody's very pleased with themselves and congratulating themselves on a wonderful job. So it's nice to see that coming through. So they're now going to put in place, I think it's 9 rehabilitation sites where because when you extract the rutile and you extract graphite, there's an awful lot of waste material to go back. And I say it's waste. I call it waste material. There's no chemical used in any of this. It's literally just we've taken out the rutile, we've taken out the graphite. Now we need to put the stuff back. Now you use quite a lot of water in the process. Most of that water, almost all that water, will be recycled, but you're going to get you're probably going to use some wet tailings there. You put the wet tailings back in the ground, and then you just want to see, well, what's the best way to rehabilitate this so they can return it to farmland.
Yeah, okay. And oh, there you are. There's pictures.
And again, we act as nomad and broker to Sovereign Metals.
Oh, you keep busy, John. What are those things there?
So that I think those are going to be the
Water storage pond, almost
sites.
capacity, and demonstration pits in background. Demonstration pits, they are. Okay.
Yeah. So the next stage is to do a hydraulic mining test where they will use high pressure water hoses just to wash down the material that they want to process. So there's two types of mining for this. The dry mining, where you try and do everything as dry as possible, and then but if you go for hydraulic mining, in fact, it's a really, really low cost, efficient, nice way of actually mining material. And the material is going to get wet in processing anyway. So why not use that property at the start? But it may be that that there are reasons why they want to keep it dry. So I think this may be preferred. Rio Tinto are a joint venture partner. Well, sorry, Rio Tinto are an investor, not a joint venture partner. And Rio's recently put more money into the business. So I think that gives us an indication that they are supportive. They are interested in helping this company going forwards. And let's face it, if Rio Tinto are going to help them, probably they want to own it at some stage.
Yeah. So what's the pre-feasibility study? So yeah, after tax NPV 1.6 billion. Internal rate of return 28%. Average annual EBITDA 415 million. It's a big old project, isn't it?
It is a world-class scale project. We can say that without any doubt. The management team, along with advice from Rio Tinto, are just checking through all the details, just ensure that that there are no problems with it, and that they know how to do it right from the start. So the rehabilitation of the mining areas and the material and I want to call it waste material. It's not really waste material. It's just the material that's come out of the ground needs to go back into the ground. And how do they deal with that so that the community don't feel like they've been disadvantaged in any way? So they're being very, very careful and very sensitive about all this. And I mean, that not only is it a world-class project, but I think it's being run in a world-class operational manner.
Yeah. Look at that. It's a nice looking chart, that. It's several times just trying to get above this level. And was at the sort of almost 28 pence sort of level. And then all of a sudden it's really shot through it. It went from 28 to 36, came back, retested that 29 pence from back up, and now at 34 pence. So looks like a good start of an uptrend there. Looking very good. Okay. Marvelous.
We talk about the risk of exploration, the risk in the mining sector. When I look at the Sovereign Metals project, I mean, this has one of the lowest risk profiles I've seen for a long time. Not only does it have the backing of a major, which helps from a financial point of view, and also helps from an expertise perspective, but it's such a simple mining project. There's no chemicals that need to be used in this. They can either dry mine it or they can hydraulically mine it, just using high pressure water hoses. It's as simple as anything. Now, they've got to work through all I mean, governments will always want to have a say in this sort of thing. But the ESG is all going to be managed properly. It should all be done in the right way, and hopefully the Malawian government will be very supportive.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing is when you get a major come on board, pretty much, and they've been on board for a while, and that it's almost validation, isn't it? Because they've got highly experienced technical guys there looking at it. They know what they're after, so it's that to a certain extent de-risks. So like you said, they've got the finances well, got back in deep pockets, and that de-risks it quite a lot, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, look, you can never say that anything is 100% risk free, but this is getting quite close to it. Now, in my personal view.
Well, it started off. The chart's looking good. It's about 40 pence. It's back to 34. So maybe it's a question of do your own research, but maybe buy the dip somewhere because it does seem like it's progressing very well. And like you say, it's quite considering what they're doing. It's quite low risk relatively.
Given where the rest of the sector is at the moment, that's actually that's quite a strong outperformance.
Yeah, it is absolutely marvelous stuff. Well, I hope you have an outperformance over the weekend, John. Are you watching the opening of the Olympics? Are you getting in? Are you dressing up in Olympic kits and getting into it?
I'm not sure I'll be dressing up for it, but yeah, we'll certainly watch some of that.
Okay, marvelous. Speaking next to Vicky, cheers, John.
All right, thank you, Justin.